Hey, good morning. Today we're going to talk about the 10 soft skills that you need. Having the technical skills and knowledge to successfully execute your job duties is only one part of being the best that you can be in the workplace. In addition to those hard skills, we also need soft skills. Soft skills are those skills which allow us to effectively work with others. And no matter what your position, organization, or industry, you work with people. And taking the time to build effective soft skills can contribute to a more efficient, more harmonious, and more productive workplace, as well as to your own overall job happiness and satisfaction. Now, research has consistently demonstrated that when clear goals are associated with learning, it occurs more easily and rapidly. With that in mind, let's review the goals for today's workshop. So at the end of this workshop, you should be able to discuss how soft skills are important to success in the workplace, understand the 10 key soft skills everyone should have, use soft skills to relate more effectively to others in the workplace, understand how to use soft skills to communicate, problem solve, and resolve conflict, and apply these soft skills to specific situations. I think Maya Angelou said it best in her quote. Courage. So what are soft skills anyway? Well, simply put, soft skills are the personal attributes that allow us to effectively relate to others. These skills enhance our personal interactions and lead to greater job performance and satisfaction. And unlike hard skills, which are the technical and knowledge skill set we bring to our work, soft skills are interpersonal and can be applied in a broad array of situations. Soft skills encompass both personality traits, such as optimism, and abilities, which can be practiced, such as empathy. Like all skills, soft skills can be learned. Soft skills are personal attributes that allow us to effectively relate to others. Applying these skills help us build stronger work relationships, work more productively, and maximize our career prospects. Often, we place the focus of our career development efforts on hard skills, technology skills, knowledge, and other skills that specifically relate to our ability to get work-related tasks done. Well, this means we neglect to develop our soft skills. However, soft skills are directly transferable to any job, any organization, or industry. And as a result, they are an investment worth making. Soft skills include communication, listening, showing empathy, networking, self-confidence, and giving and receiving feedback. Now, empathy is perhaps the most important soft skill we can develop for better interpersonal interactions. Empathy is the ability to identify with another person's experience. While often we think of empathy in terms of only identifying with someone's pain or negative experience, we can apply empathy in a variety of situations. Developing empathy allows us to imagine ourselves in another person's shoes, to respond to other and even into vicarious experiences that others' feelings of emotions. So whether we demonstrate empathy, we create connections with others, which can help to build teamwork or otherwise create shared goals. Empathy also helps to forge stronger interpersonal connections with team members and colleagues, which is as important as shared goals or complementary skills when it comes to, well, accomplishing work. Empathy is only one component of what is known to EI, or emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize and manage our feelings so that they are expressed appropriately. Now, exercising emotional intelligence helps to create harmonious, productive relationships. And there are 4 key components to emotional intelligence. Self-awareness, and that's the ability to recognize our own feelings and motivations. Self-management, the ability to appropriately express or not express feelings. social awareness, our ability to recognize the feelings and needs of others and the norms of a given situation. And lastly, relationship management, our ability to relate effectively to others. Now, taken together, these skills make up our EQI, or emotional intelligent quotient. The EQI is a measure of your ability to exercise soft skills such as empathy. Next is professionalism. And, there is a few different norms that most organizations, they try to ask for, and that's dressing appropriately, being clean and neat, speaking clearly and politely to colleagues, customers, and clients. And the word professionalism often conjures up images of a cold, distant, Berkman person in a nondescriptive navy blue shirt, kind of like I'm wearing. Well, in fact, many people have the same sense to that professional is exactly the opposite of demonstrating empathy and emotional intelligence. However, professionalism is a key soft skill, and it doesn't require you to be inauthentic, distant, or detached. Professionalism is simply the ability to conduct yourself with responsibility, integrity, accountability, and excellence. Now, acting with professionalism also means seeking to communicate effectively with others and finding a way to be productive. Professionalism involves what may seem to be small acts, such as always reporting to work on time and returning promptly from breaks, dressing appropriately, being clean and neat, speaking clearly and politely to colleagues, customers, and clients, and always striving to meet high standards for one's own work. Now, we talk about, or we hear often, learned and versus inborn trait. Well, because soft skills are talked about as traits of a person's personality, it may seem as though you have to be born with them. Well, while some soft skills come more easily to one person than they might to another, soft skills are not inborn. Like all skills, they can be learned, because we all have our own preferences and ways of moving throughout the world. Some soft skills may be more difficult to learn than others. But if we think back, there's also the aspects of our hard skills set that were difficult to learn at first. Though they now seem to come quite normally to us. We develop soft skills in the same way we develop hard skills. We practice. Sometimes spending time with people who seem to be able to effortlessly demonstrate a soft skill that you find challenging. That's one way to build your soft set skill. Another way is to seek opportunities to practice in which the risk of failure is low. Until you feel confident in your ability, you don't have to be a born networker or an empathetic person. You can learn and build these skills throughout your career. So, one example, Dee was just not a people person. She preferred to work by herself, and her position at her company allowed her to do most of her time. She valued her productivity and her ability to meet deadlines and exceed expectations. And anything that got in the way of that was an annoyance. I've heard that. When she had to interact with coworkers throughout the day, she preferred to keep the interactions as brief as possible so she could just get back to work. Her coworker, Angela, mentioned that people often found Dee unapproachable. "I'm just not wired to be social," Dee says. "I don't relate well to others, and when I feel like they're wasting my time, I've always been a loner. It just comes naturally to me." Well, Angela explained that she also preferred to focus on her tasks and work independently, but she had to learn to relate to her coworkers so that she could have a more harmonious work experience. Well, Angela did encourage Dee to approach her to coworkers, right? I mean, to try to see them as interruptions, but as fellow humans who were worth paying attention to. Well, Dee decided to try this. Although it was hard for her, the next time a coworker interrupted her while she was working, Dee tried to really listen to what he needed to, rather than just rushing him out of her office. Well, she realized that her coworker often didn't come to her until things were in crisis because they found her distant. She then realized that cultivating better relationships was a way to prevent crisis in the workday, right? So with the practical illustration, we're going to move into some review questions. And so what I'd like you to do is look at these questions and write the prompts. So it would be module 2, question 1, and go through these questions and try to answer them and email me these questions. todd.price@globalctinstitute.org. Module 2 review questions, and I'm just going to let you go through them and talk about and answer these. You're just going to say which of the following are true of soft skills, and you're going to answer whichever one there is, and go through all of them, and then we'll get back at the next. So welcome back. Hopefully you've answered those questions and you were able to email them to me. Peter Drucker has said many things in his career. The most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said. Communication is another very important soft skill. Why? Because all other soft skills are built on the ability to communicate clearly and professionally. Communication is more than just sending a message. It is also the ability to receive messages, and that means listen actively or hear what is being said. And many times we focus on learning to speak or write clearly, but this is only one component of communication, and perhaps not even the most important. Human communication is complex, and the first thing that comes to mind when we hear the word communication is often words like either spoken or written, but the words we speak and hear are just one way we communicate. And some studies show that most of our communication takes place through other means, right? Human communicates in many different ways. Nonverbal communications, communications without words, such as eye contact or posture. Verbal communication, communication with words, both written and spoken. Body language, well, that's communication through gestures, personal space, and touching. Artistic communication is communicating through images and other creative media. Musical communication, and that's, of course, communication through music, whether with lyrics or without. Now, most of us have a preferred method of communication, but all of us, we use these different forms at one point or another. So learning to communicate effectively in many forms helps not only when you craft your message, but when you receive messages as well. With improving nonverbal communication, studies show that up to 70% of the information that we communicate comes through nonverbal communication. Gestures, eye contact, posture, personal space, and all the other ways we use our bodies to send messages. Now, other studies show that if a person's nonverbal communications and verbal communications don't match in terms of message, well, the listener is more likely to doubt what the speaker is saying. So improving your nonverbal communication can help improve your overall ability to both send and receive messages. Now, improving your nonverbal communication starts with awareness. Pay attention to how you use your body when you're talking or listening to someone. So an open stance, frequent, but not, continuous eye contact with nods, and a relaxed posture help to communicate that you are open and approachable and that you are communicating honestly. A closed stance, folding your arms across your chest, staring at the floor, or refusing to make eye contact all indicate you are not listening, or that you are communicating openly, shifting from foot to foot, pacing, otherwise moving continuously. Well, that indicates impatience. I mean, we do many things without thinking about them. They're just habits that we've picked up, especially when we are otherwise busy. So taking the time to notice both your own nonverbal communication and others, and especially your reaction to others. Listening. Well, the ability to receive messages is as important, if not more important, than the ability to send them. Let me repeat that. The ability to receive messages is as important, if not more important, than the ability to send them. Listening is more than just hearing the words someone speaks. It is the total way of receiving verbal and nonverbal messages, processing them, and communicating that understands back to the speaker. Well, many of us listen in order to respond. We are formulating our next message while another person is still talking. We should listen. We should instead listen to understand, to take fully in, process, and comprehend the message that you are getting. So active listening is sometimes thrown around as a buzzword, right? It's a valuable soft skill to develop. And active listening is a form of listening where you're listening to the speaker. If you hear the words "I know" all the time come out of somebody's mouth, they are not listening. You may also give the speaker nonverbal feedback through nods of agreement or other techniques which indicate you are listening and understanding. So active listening, well, it involves staying focused on the present, both by giving the speaker your full attention and by keeping the discussion to the issue at hand. I personally don't know how many times I've taught classes, and it may just be because I'm a boring speaker. I don't know. But I see people go to their cell phones or look down or look away or do something. And they're quite frankly not even paying attention. Do you know how disrespectful that is? So I hear you saying, check for the understanding and use the word I statements rather than you statements. Active listening involves staying focused on the present, both by giving you the speaker your full attention and by keeping the discussion to the issue at hand. Does that make sense? And then you're going to reflect back to the speaker what you understand them to have said by carefully rephrasing the message. So, I hear you saying. You can check your understandings and use the word I statements or you said. Open, honest communication is the key to building workplace relationships and demonstrating professionalism. Now, while you do not need to discuss personal or private topics in the workplace, being transparent and honest about your work matters and generally being willing to communicate with others, well, that's vital. People can sense when someone is hiding something or withholding information and tend not to trust them. This damages workplace trust and relationships and may lead to lower productivity and morale. Now, each of us has at a different level of comfort. Well, we've had a different level of comfort with what we choose or disclose about ourselves, and that's normal. But being willing to share parts of yourself with your colleagues also helps to build rapport. And it doesn't mean you need to tell them your whole life. Now, Austin, we'll use this guy. He wasn't a big communicator, right? He liked to get right to the point so that an issue could be resolved or a project could move forward. He especially didn't like it if someone seemed to be talking too long to get to their point. Well, he tended to listen with his arms folded in his chest and sometimes even tapped his foot without realizing it. If a person came into the office while he was working, he'd continue working while the person talked. Well, this meant sometimes he might have missed important details. During his yearly review, Austin's manager told him that Austin's coworkers and direct reports felt that he never really listened and that they were bothering him even when they had to come to him with important things. So Austin's manager suggested he take a one-day communication course and try some of the techniques. Well, Austin agreed, but only because he felt he had no choice. Now, in the course, they talked about nonverbal communication, and Austin realized how off-putting his habits were. So he decided to try to be more mindful of his nonverbal communication and listening style. What does that mean for you? What habits do you think you have? And so in this module, we're coming up to review questions, and I'd like for you to go ahead and go through these review questions and then send back your answers to todd.price@globalctinstitute.org. You can just go ahead through the slides and get through these review questions, and we'll pick up back at the next module. Okay, welcome back. Talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships. Michael Jordan said that. Now, with teamwork, even if you work fairly independently most of the time, inevitably you must also work with others. Finding ways to build teams that accomplishes what needs to be done is the most efficient and accurate manner is often challenging, especially when bringing together team members with diverse sets of hard skills, and soft skills. So there are some basic techniques that you can use when building and working with a team that you're able to help create a cohesive unit that leverages everyone's talents and ensures that each person contributes. So it was Einstein that said, everyone is a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its life thinking it is stupid. When building a team, it is key to identify the different talents, skills, and capability each team member brings. So identifying what each team member does well and can contribute helps ensure the work is allocated in a way that takes full advantage of the talent resources on the team. So that means assigning a team member work that is completely outside their skill set is just a recipe for failure. And on the other hand, leveraging all the diverse capabilities, skills, and talents on your teams helps you achieve the maximum result. So when you build or join a team, take the time at the onset to ask each other what they bring to the team. What skills, abilities, and relationship does each team member have that can enhance the project? What does each person feel they do well? And how can the team use all talents and capabilities to achieve the best outcome? Building a team is not hard. It just takes time. And so in a team, when you are given a role, it's important to get into it, right? Be sure you know what is expected of you and what you can expect of others. Even if the role is a new one or a stretch for you, it is key to step into it. This also means stepping out of others' roles. There's a saying we have of staying in your lane. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't look at other people's roles, even if those roles are roles that you have played before. You can use your communication skills to create open, honest dialogues with your other team members so that you are all on the same page. Be clear about what your role begins and ends, and be willing to assert those boundaries. Teamwork can be challenging in the best of circumstances, but it is even more so when roles are unclear. A key step in creating a team is clearly outlining what each person's role is and is not. So, the process, learning the whole process. Knowing your role and stepping fully into it is a vital part of effective teamwork. Now, at the same time, it's important not to get isolated in your own piece of the project. Learning the whole process not only ensures that you understand your own role and accountabilities, but it helps you know what to expect and from others. So when you take the time to learn the whole process, it puts your work and your relationship with the team members into a larger context. So knowing the whole process also means that you can help a colleague troubleshoot if problems arise, and that your colleague can be of assistance should you need it. Now, in the worst case scenario, having every member of the team know the whole process means that others can step in if there is a crisis or breakdown in the project. And the best way to learn the whole process is to talk to team members who are working parts of a project different from your own. Take the time to answer questions and to listen actively to the answers. This not only demonstrates that you care about the outcome of the project, but that you are interested and invest in each of your teammates' work and success. So learning the whole process helps to build collaborative relationships among team members, which helps to enhance the communication and overall productivity. Psychologists define flow as a mental state that occurs when we are fully immersed in an activity. So when we are in a flow state, we are completely absorbed in what we are doing. And this produces a feeling of energized focus and enjoyment, sort of like how I'm doing this presentation. Tapping into flow is a powerful way to increase your own productivity and the productivity of your team. Now, we are most likely to achieve flow when we are engaged in a task to which our skills are well matched. Another reason to identify the capabilities of each person on a team. Flow also comes about more easily when we have clear goals and can focus on the process rather than the end product. So perhaps the most important key to achieving flow is to minimize interruptions when you are working. Now, when we can find the flow state, time seems to pass quickly without our noticing. We're also more likely to create accurate, high-quality work with fewer errors because we are focused totally on what we are doing. A flow state may be a key aspect of mastering a new set of skills. Stretching your skill set and cultivating flow can be a great tool for professional development. Now, in this practical illustration, a lady named Colleen. She often worked as part of a team, but preferred to focus on her part of the final product only. Well, she communicated with her team members as needed, but she didn't really understand what each of them did. It simply wasn't important to her ability to finish her part of the project. So when she joined the team for a new project, the team lead, Tasha, suggested that each person described what they would do on the project. Well, Colleen didn't see the point. However, as each team member described their piece of the project and role in the team, Colleen began to see how the project all came together. Well, to get a larger picture, she had never thought before about what had to happen before her piece could be completed, nor what had to happen afterwards. Well, seeing the project as a cohesive whole made her understanding more clearly what the overall goal was. And knowing what each of her teammates did also helped her communicate with them more clearly. Now, for the next module, there's some more review questions. So go ahead and work through these. And again, module 4, question 1, the answer is, select the answer, and then email those to todd.price@globalctinstitute.org. And welcome back. It's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer. Albert Einstein says that. So no matter what your industry or your role, problem solving is part of your job. Whether the problems you encounter are big or small, you solve problems every day. And learning how to apply problem solving skills helps not only enhance productivity, but also helps to cultivate relations by focusing on shared goals or solutions. So, defining the problem. Well, that's the first step. You can't solve a problem if you don't know what it is. So the first step is solving any problem should be to define the problem itself. Now, oftentimes we think is a problem is only a symptom of a larger issue. So taking time to define the problem clearly, whether it's an interpersonal conflict or a hitch in a supply line, figuring out what the problem is exactly and clearly defining it means you can move forward with solutions that will actually solve it, rather than just resolve the symptom or temporarily stop the chaos. So taking time to define the problem is especially important if emotions are running high or interactions are getting heated. It puts the focus back on shared goals and allows for everyone to be heard. So once you've defined a problem, you can move on to solutions. It is important not just to choose the first solution that presents itself, nor should you push your own preferred solution to the exclusion of others. Instead, take the time to generate alternative solutions. Ask the others involved what ideas they have for solving the problem, and then discuss the ways in which the alternative solutions might play out, problems they might encounter, and how any obstacle can be overcome. Apply active listening and clear communication throughout. When the group has generated many solutions, discuss which ones you would all like to move forward with. Evaluate the plans. With your list of alternative solutions generated, it is time to make plans and evaluate them. Give all alternative solutions equally fair treatment. Ask the group to brainstorm potential benefits to each alternative solution or plan. Then work with the group to anticipate potential obstacles or problems with each plan. Now, based on these discussions, evaluate which plan or plans seems to offer the greatest benefit with the fewest drawbacks. Also, consider whether the necessary resources, like people, time, materials, or funding, are available for each proposed plan. As the plans are evaluated, it will quickly become clear which are entirely unworkable. Narrow the list until the most workable plans are found. And then once the most workable plan has been chosen, well, it's time to implement it. It is important to communicate clearly about how the plan will be implemented, what each person's role will be, and what the goals and expected outcomes are. So the other skills you are developing, which is communication and teamwork, they're vital here. People must feel as though they are part of the solution if you want them to buy into it. And also provide a timeline for the plan, including the point at which the plan will be reevaluated. Reevaluation of the plan is a step that often gets missed. Now, sometimes what appears to be the most workable plan on paper does not play out well when put into action. It is important to take the time to reevaluate the plan once it has been implemented so you can gauge how well it's working. Now, depending on the results, you may need to make some changes to the plan or implement a new plan altogether. Reevaluation helps to determine whether the original problem has, in fact, been solved. So, the practical illustration where we went through problem solving, where you define the problem, you generate alternate solutions, you evaluate the plans, and then you implementation and reevaluation of the plan. We have a gentleman named Enrique. He liked to be known as the fix-it guy. He prided himself on the ability to swoop in and resolve a crisis. And his coworkers appreciated his ability to quickly put an end to chaos or stop a situation from escalating. But he noticed that he seemed to put the same fires out over and over. He could help solve a problem in the short term, but ultimately the same things kept coming up. His colleague in another apartment, her name was Helen, asked Enrique what his process for solving problems was. Enrique couldn't really tell her. He just said he looked for the most pressing need and took care of it. Well, Helen suggested that he get his team together and brainstorm a list of their most common problems. They could then identify the underlying issues and create plans to solve them permanently, rather than just managing crises as they came up. Well, Enrique thought this sounded like a good idea. Well, he and his team brainstormed ways to create clear, more open communication and expectations around goals and roles in their work. And within a few weeks, Enrique noticed that all you did have to manage was just some small things that happened here and there. So in Module 5, here's some review questions. I'd like you to go ahead and work through these individually, and then we'll come back to Module 6 after you answer the questions and send them to me at todd.price@globalctinstitute.org. You can go ahead and read this quote. Okay, Module 6. We all have the same number of hours in a day. Well, some people work more, some people do work less. So why is it that some people seem to get so much more done? Well, the ability to effectively manage your time is key to productivity. You may not be able to create more time in your day, but applying time management skills can help you make the most of the time you do have. So the art of scheduling, and we know that if we want to have a meeting, get a haircut, or see our healthcare provider, we need to make an appointment. We schedule our errands and vacations, but when it comes time to our own time and work, we do independently. Too often, we take a piecemeal approach and just do whatever comes to hand first. Well, taking the time to schedule work tasks, even those you do independently, helps you make better use of your time. Instead of doing work as it comes to you, take the time to slot in a block of time on your schedule for each task. Don't forget to schedule in breaks too. Scheduling tasks makes them a priority, and after all, you wouldn't just skip a doctor's appointment or other scheduled obligations. Seeing something on your schedule also helps you remember that it needs to get done. Scheduling can take time to master. You may discover that tasks that take much more or much less time than you planned for. Spend a week or so keeping track of how much you spend your work time so that you can better plan ahead for how much time to schedule a given task or project. Prioritizing. Managing your priorities is key to managing your time. Taking the time to determine what is most important, whether in terms of value or in terms of completion, is the first step. Now, sometimes we don't have that. We have a boss and they say what the priority is. But if you take time each day and week to determine what your priorities are for the upcoming days, well, slot these into your schedule first. This allows you to ensure that time is blocked off and resources allocated for the most important tasks and projects. So when we take time to set priorities, everything becomes equally urgent, which means that we move from task to task in a way that is haphazard and does not make the best use of our time or energy. Setting priorities helps ensure that you take care of these things that are most pressing or whichever delivers the most value. Prioritizing is especially key when working with others. If people who must work together have different senses of what the priorities are, well, this leads to miscommunication, conflict, and reduced productivity. Managing distractions. Wow, this is a really good one. A major key to productivity, especially if you want to find a flow state, is to manage your distractions. And we all know distractions happen. We can minimize them and manage them, but never eliminate them altogether. And creating a plan for managing distractions is a key time management skill. And the first step is determine what your major distractions are. Is it a colleague popping in your office? Is it your email or voicemail? Do you get bored with routine tasks if you have to focus on them far too long? So figuring out what your major distractions are can help you brainstorm solutions and better manage them. Here's some common distractions. Colleagues stopping by to chat, checking email or voicemail, noises in the environment, clutter in your workspace, boredom after spending too long on one task. So you can solve these by establishing an open door hours. Like me, I have open office hours on Saturdays from 10 to 12, but I still get messages throughout the week from people, and that's okay. I check those messages daily to make sure there's nothing important so that I can prioritize my schedule. Closing your door, well, there's also a please do not disturb. Of course, if your boss comes by, he's going to want to disturb you whenever he feels like it. So you can also use noise canceling headphones if your organization allows that. And then setting a regular time to check your voicemail and email. Like I check my messages every morning. And then I don't check them throughout the rest of the day. I'll check them again at lunch, and I'll check them before I leave. Letting calls go to voicemail, sometimes that's okay. Decluttering your workspace and building in breaks for yourself, you can solve easily. Multitasking. I like the multitasking myth. It is exactly what it sounds like, trying to do more than one thing at a time. Many of us multitask throughout our day, listening to a colleague while checking email, working on a document while talking on the phone. We have the idea that we get more done when we multitask, or that this is the best way to maximize our time. However, studies show that 30 to 40% more time is spent when you multitask rather than when you monotask. Please work on one thing at a time. Multitasking also means your attention is divided, which can lead to miscommunication and errors. Multitasking can also damage relationships, as it may convey that we are not really interested in what another person is saying. It can be difficult to break the multitasking habit, but the key is if we are able to be the best that we can be in doing that. So in this illustration of the art of scheduling, Cliff, he was one of the busiest people in our office. He always had at least 3 things going on. To make the most of his time, he did 2 or more things at once. He would edit a document on screen while he was on a conference call, filled papers or filed papers while he talked to one of his direct reports. He could just never get ahead. It seemed the harder he worked, the more behind he fell. He didn't understand why his office mate, Shauna, always seemed to be on top of things. She only ever worked on one thing at a time. She let her calls roll to voicemail and only checked her email 4 times a day. Well, Cliff didn't understand how she could possibly get everything done that she did. She also seemed too much less harried about than he did. Well, she even had time to take a little break a couple times a day to walk around and get a cup of tea. So he asked her what her secret was. She says, "I only do one thing at a time. This was my full attention is on one thing. And then I can move on to the next thing." She told him to try it for a week. Well, I mean, he kind of like, nah, I'll do what I want. Well, to his amazement, Cliff found that tasks took less time than he thought they would. And he was able to work much more efficiently when he focused on one thing at a time. So in Module 6, go ahead and answer these review questions, go through them, and then email the answers to todd.price@globalctinstitute.org. So welcome back. Creating a positive attitude, well, is one of the best things you can do for your productivity at your workplace. Happiness. People who have a consistently positive attitude are seen as approachable and can build more effective workplace relationships. A positive attitude also serves you well when you face challenges or setback. It breeds resilience. Now, coupled with a positive attitude, a strong work ethic can help you build strong relationships with teammates and superiors. A solid work ethic also helps you find reward in the work you do and shows a dedication not just to goals and outcomes, but to your overall professional development. So, what are you working for? So being clear about what you're working for is a key part of building a positive attitude and strong work ethic. If you are not sure what you are working for, it can be difficult or even impossible to fully invest in a project or developing your skills. So take time to clarify what your personal goals are, both in terms of specific projects and in terms of your overall career. Set specific goals and then create plans to achieve them. Tie these goals to your day-to-day tasks and responsibilities so that you can keep them in sight. When working with a team, it is also vital that you outline clear group goals. Know what each member of the group is working for and what the group is collectively working for. So find ways to consistently tie individual tasks or steps to the overarching group goals and to individual members' personal goals. So, is there really a difference between caring for others and caring for yourself? Too often, we assume that to show care and concern for others and their needs, we have to put ourselves and our needs at the bottom of the list. Well, we may believe that we can either practice self-care or be a good colleague and team member who demonstrates compassion for others, but that we cannot be both. However, when we come to the realization that we have shared goals with those we work with, we can find a way to both care for ourselves and care for others. We might also realize that caring for ourselves is in itself a way of demonstrating care for others. That by taking good care of ourselves, we become the best colleagues we can be, which demonstrates care for others. Moreover, we may hold the false belief that there can be only one winner in any given situation. As a result, we may believe that we can pursue our own goals or help others pursue theirs, but never do both. So seeing the ways in which everyone is interconnected and the way in which everyone's success benefits the entire group is an important attitude shift. When we can find a way to care for others and ourselves, we develop a more positive, productive workplace. Now, building trust. It's in some jobs, it's difficult. But nothing undermines productivity and morale in a workplace like lack of trust. If people don't trust you, they find it hard to work with you, invest in you, or pursue shared goals. So take the time to build trust with those you work with, and everyone will thrive. Many of the soft skills help to build trust, which are effective communication, openness and honesty, a positive attitude, and a strong work ethic. Continuously demonstrating that you are trustworthy helps not only build personal relationships, but also to create buy-in for your initiatives and projects. People who are seen trustworthy or deemed trustworthy by colleagues, well, they share some characteristics we all want to see. They are skilled at their jobs. They're passionate about their work with a strong work ethic. They communicate honestly and value transparency. And they have others' best interests at heart. They care about people and demonstrate this, well, and they are self-aware. So one result of adopting a positive attitude and strong work ethic is that you begin to see work as its own reward. So when we operate from this standpoint, we are no longer working with others or completing tasks based on what we will gain financially or professionally from doing so. Well, and this makes us seem more engaged and trustworthy. Well, there's nothing wrong with valuing our salaries and compensations because, well, they are vital. They're a vital part of why we work. However, when we take the focus off the material rewards for work and instead focus on the satisfaction that we derive from the work itself, we are better able to grow and thrive. What does that mean? So a person who clearly loves what they do and considers it a reward in itself is also more trustworthy, as others do not question their motives. If it is difficult for you to consider your work as anything other than a source of a paycheck or path to advancement, well, it may be time for you to consider why you do the work you do. And that is, Learning to practice gratitude around your work is one way to learn to see it as its own reward. Now, what does your work provide you in terms of satisfaction, contentment, excitement, and other non-material benefits? Are you excited to do the work you do? Why or why not? Do you feel confident at the end of the day with what you've accomplished? Every day won't be a dream come true. It just won't. There are always rough days, but if you can find a way to love the work you do the majority of the time, you are on the path to greater professional and personal happiness. So in this illustration, what are you working for? We're going to talk about Yuki. Now, Yuki's always said she was only in her job for the paycheck. Well, she really wanted to pay off her student loans and credit card debt. Who wouldn't? And she worked as many hours as she could to earn money she needed. She was good at her job and completed her tasks accurately and on time, but seemed to derive little pleasure from it. She worked hard all week and counted the days until Friday. She often seemed unhappy and bored with her work. Well, her manager asked her what she felt she was working for. What were her goals? Yuki explained that she was working for a paycheck. Her manager then asked what she would be working for when the debt was gone. Well, Yuki couldn't answer. Her manager suggested she think more broadly about what she was working for and how she could find other rewards in her work. So they brainstormed a list of Yuki's professional and personal goals, and then discussed how Yuki could view her work in the context of these goals. And Yuki began to feel more engaged in her work. So these review questions, the same, work through them and email your answers to todd.price@globalctinstitute.org. You must always be able to predict what's next and have the flexibility to evolve. Two of the most important skills you can have are adaptability and flexibility. Now, some people mistakenly think that the ability to change according to the needs of a situation or a willingness to compromise shows weakness or a lack of conviction. Well, in reality, the ability to compromise, change in response to changing situations and changing needs, and to thrive are keys to success in the fast-paced workplaces most of us find ourselves in. And change can be scary, but learning to adapt and flex as needed is an investment worth making. But that's how we've always done it, right? Things were better back when and that's it. I mean, do you find yourself saying these things? But that's the way we've always done it. Most of us fall prey to the good old days syndrome, where we look back at the past and believe that everything was better. Well, this can pose a serious obstacle to our ability to adapt to change. If we are convinced that the good old days were best, we are unlikely to give a new way of doing things a fair try. And when you find yourself thinking back to the good old days, well, give yourself a reality check. Ask yourself if things were really as good as you think that you remember. Most of us romanticize the past. Be honest with yourself. Try to recall obstacles, problems, or difficulties you had with a thing you are remembering as so good. And remember, there were people in the good old days who were wishing for their own good old days. One of the most common situations in which we will need to change or flex and adapt is when processes change. Now, in order to navigate new process and help others do the same, we need to change not only what we do, but how we approach it. New technology, globalizing businesses, and changing needs all lead to changes in our work processes. Now, if we hold on to the good old days and the good old ways of doing things, we risk reduced productivity and revenue, as well as conflict and other challenges. And so when we adopt a new process, we are just not learning a new way of doing a specific task. We are demonstrate our ability to adapt to changing circumstances, learning new skills, and working with others. And remember, change is inevitable. Changing to manage people. So managing people is not a one-size-fits-all ability. People need different things from a manager. Some need lots of feedback and guidance. Others prefer to work independently most of the time and to get feedback only at regularly scheduled intervals. Some people need a great deal of hands-on training with technology and equipment, while others will come into your organization as experts. So taking the time to learn what your people need and then changing your management style to meet those needs is hugely important to workplace success. So when you adapt a management style to meet the specific needs of the people you manage, this demonstrates that you care for others. Then rather than expecting them to conform your preferred way of doing things, you want to invest in them and help them grow. Take the time to ask the people you manage what they need from you, what their goals are, and how you can be a better manager, supervisor, and colleague. Then take steps to make the changes that you feel will be most helpful. Now, how can you showcase your adaptability at work? Well, studies show that people who are highly adaptable may be highly valued at work than those who are highly skilled but less willing to adapt, flex, and change. Let me repeat that. How can you show your adaptability at work? Studies show that people who are highly adaptable may be more highly valued at work than those who are highly skilled but less willing to adapt, flex, and change. Take the time to show how adaptable you are, and your workplace is likely to see you as a worthwhile investment. Some ways to demonstrate adaptability on the job are: be open to alternative solutions when your first suggestion does not go over well or succeed. Be willing to take on new roles, even when they are a stretch for your skills. Be willing to help others generate alternative solutions or plans. And be willing to accept the unexpected. Keep your calm, even when things are moving fast or stressful, and demonstrate confidence in your ability to complete the job, even when you have to adapt or be flexible. Now, in this illustration, we're going to talk about Martin. Martin had been a manager for more than 30 years. He developed a tough but fair style that he applied impartially to all his direct reports. Well, he thought it was best to treat everyone the same. Well, that way things were fair and everyone knew what to expect. But when he started at his new organization, he noticed that many of his new direct reports seemed to need a lot of hand-holding. Well, this was frustrating. He didn't understand why they could just do the work as assigned. Mistakes were common too. One day, when talking with a manager in another division, Martin expressed his frustration to him. Sometimes our younger employees need a little more guidance, he said. They are newly out of college and aren't sure what to do. They are used to having a lot of face time with their supervisors. Well, maybe you could try that and see if it works. Well, Martin didn't want to have to change, but he also didn't want things to continue as they were. He tried spending one-on-one time with his direct new reports each time he assigned them new work so that he could discuss goals and expectations. And he noticed that work improved greatly after he did that. Now on Module 8, go ahead and go through the review questions and email the answers to todd.price@globalctinstitute.org. Self-confidence is the first requisite to great undertakings. Samuel Johnson said that. Self-confidence, or owning it. The single greatest thing you can do for your own success is build and learn to show self-confidence. Self-confidence is not egotistic or acting like you are better than others. Self-confidence is simply the belief that you know what to do and how to do it, that you are good at what you do, and that you can handle whatever comes your way. Demonstrating self-confidence helps to engender trust in you and demonstrates that you are skilled and adaptable. So what does that mean? What are confidence traits? Like, they don't put others down, they aren't afraid to look silly or foolish. Well, studies show that confident people share many of the same traits, even across cultures and industries. Cultivating those traits you already have and developing those that you do not have yet will build your overall self-confidence. Remember, self-confidence is about building yourself up, not tearing others down. When you are confident, you make others around you feel confident too. Some common traits of confident people include they are not afraid to be wrong. They are willing to take a stand, even if they end up being wrong. They value finding out what is right more than they value being right. They listen more than they speak. They do not seek the spotlight, and they share the spotlight with others. They ask for help when they need it. They think in possibilities, not obstacles. And they ask, why not? They don't put others down. They aren't afraid to look silly or foolish. They acknowledge their mistakes. They seek feedback from only those who matter. They accept compliments, and they walk their walk and talk their talk. So how confident are you? So it can be hard to assess our own self-confidence. Taking some time to ask a few questions and answer them honestly can help you gauge the areas where your confidence is high and the areas in which you can develop greater self-confidence. So ask yourself if you agree with these statements. I intuitively know what's right for me. I walk my talk. I am honest with others. I am honest with myself. I feel comfortable being wrong. I am more interested in finding out what is right than being right. It is not important to me that I be right all the time. I feel like I can meet any challenge. I operate well under pressure. I do not put others down. I like to share the spotlight with others. And I have a clear vision for my life. Now, self-confidence is a trait that can be built. In fact, a few very simple tactics can help you quickly build your self-confidence. And as you become more confident, you will have experiences that will build your confidence even more. So here are some surefire tips for building self-confidence. Dress your best. Knowing you look good is a key to feeling good about yourself. And when you know you look good, you project confidence. Well, take the time to choose clothes that fit well and that you feel good in. A good haircut that is easy for you to style is also key. If you enjoy makeup, jewelry, or other types of adornment, find pieces you love that make you feel like a million. Stand up straight. Good posture is a quick, free way to build your confidence. Stand up straight. Keep your shoulders back. Don't be afraid to take up space. A bonus of a good posture is that you breathe more deeply and get more oxygen, which may mean you have more focus. Practice gratitude. So when you take the time each day to practice gratitude, you see how many blessings you have in your life. This builds your confidence and appreciation for your life. Now, complimenting others. So confident people take the time to compliment others. When you compliment others, you project that you have genuine concern and appreciation for them. Accepting compliments, right? When someone compliments you, accept it. Too often we say yes, but instead of saying thank you. Now, spend time with people who build you up, right? This helps keep you focused on the positive. So one key trait of people who have high self-confidence is that they build up others rather than tear them down. Having self-confidence means that you do not feel competitive with others. Their success doesn't take away from your own. Find ways to build up others, compliment others, acknowledge your contributions, and express your gratitude. And being a mentor can also help to build others up by helping them develop skills, which will help them develop their own self-confidence. So in this practical illustration, Kurt, well, he had trouble presenting his work to his colleagues, and he often felt nervous about public speaking. Well, when he would present his information at meetings, he would stutter and become very embarrassed. Now, he couldn't understand how everyone else gave presentations with such ease. He started dreading coming to work, and his performance began to suffer. His manager, Mark, noticed and sat down for a one-on-one meeting. And Kurt expressed his concerns and asked Mark's advice. Mark reminded him that everyone gets nervous and that the harshest critic anyone will ever have is themselves. So he told Kurt that he did great work and should be proud of it. Kurt felt much more confident in his abilities then. So in Module 9, go ahead and go through these questions and email the answers to todd.price@globalcityinstitute.org. I like criticism. It makes me strong. Well, LeBron James says it makes you strong, but I like criticism, and it also makes me stronger. So not many people like criticism, but the ability to learn from it is key to professional and personal development. Learning to accept and learn from criticism is a valuable investment in yourself. The ability to listen to and accept criticism is a key component of self-confidence. We all know what the difference is between criticism and bashing, and there is one. So we instinctively know it. Also, one of the key components, this also demonstrates that you have value what others have to say and that you value it. And it helps develop a sense that you are committed to what you do and to your own growth. It can come to a shock when we get feedback that we're not as perfect as we might like to think we are. However, one of the hallmarks of a confident person is the willingness to recognize mistakes and accept that sometimes we are wrong. The key is to keep the focus on improvement and not on defending ourselves, right? Going into defense mode, or on the reasons why we did the thing we are being criticized for. And when you accept that you're not perfect and that imperfection doesn't mean you're a bad person, you've gained a valuable skill. Remember that no one expects you to be perfect or just expect you have to be the best you can be. And criticism is offered in the spirit of helping you achieve excellence, not to make you feel bad. Also, your active listening skills come in very handy when you're learning to accept and learn from criticism. It is tempting to defend ourselves when we receive criticism, but it is vital to resist this. When someone offers you feedback or criticism, listen with an open mind. You may not agree with it all or any of what they have to say, but it is important to hear the person out. Reflect back what you understand the person to have said. Check for understanding and answer any questions non-defensively, and do not interrupt. Listen to understand, not to respond. That's key. Listen to understand and not to respond. Now, after someone has given you feedback or criticism, Well, it's fine to ask for time to consider what they have said. Always thank the person for their feedback. Take time to analyze the feedback and decide what items you want to act on. Now, give yourself time, especially if you feel defensive. Even if you do not agree with everything the person said, see what you can draw out of the feedback that you can learn from. And when you have analyzed the feedback, choose some action items that you can use going forward. You should then investigate trainings, courses, or mentoring, or other ways in which you can act on these areas of feedback that you agree with or that you think are valid. So if you have difficulty analyzing feedback, seek out the help of a mentor, a supervisor, or a trusted colleague to help you maybe learn and understand it better. Now, even when it's not meant to be, criticism and feedback can feel extremely personal. So when someone gives you feedback, it's important to clear the air and not hold to any bad feelings or grudges. Take the time to thank the person for their time and for caring enough to give you feedback. Affirm the relationship, especially if the criticism has been harsh or difficult to hear. Remember that when people give you feedback, they are doing you, and they are doing so with your best interest at heart. If you find yourself feeling defensive or holding on to negative feelings, even after the feedback session, well, make sure to find a way to clear the air as soon as possible. This demonstrates not only that you are committed to your own growth, but you value the relationship with the person who gave you the feedback. Now, everyone dreaded having to give Delia feedback, and this is the illustration we're going to use. She never wanted to hear that she had done anything less than perfect. She always had a reason for why she had taken the action she had. If someone gave her criticism, well, she would be frosty for several days and not want to talk to them. She seldom acted on feedback unless she got it from her manager, and Delia didn't understand why it seemed like people were attacking her and wondered if this was why she was not being promoted. Her manager suggested that Delia try learning new skills around feedback. Well, she took a weekend course and realized that she had not been listening with an open mind and had been damaging her relationships with her coworkers. She decided to try some of the techniques she learned so she can learn from others' feedback. So go ahead and answer these questions and email them to todd.price@globalceinstitute.org. Networking. This is module 11. Well, networking is more than just a buzzword. So taking the time to network and build relationships, well, that's a key soft skill. Networking helps you create connection with others, which expands your circle of learning and support. Networking is more than just meeting people or connecting with them on the internet. It involves building mutually beneficial links where you can learn from and benefit from each other and the relationship, meaning it's just not one-sided. So when people think of networking, well, they think of it in terms of what they need or what they can get from the networking relationship. And networking can be more beneficial if we think of what we can give in our networking relationships. And think about what you have to offer people instead of what you need from them. When you think in terms of what you can offer as well as what you need, it expands your network. You begin to seek out people to whom you can offer yourself, your expertise, and talents, rather than just those who have something to offer you. Seeing yourself as someone with much more to offer also helps to boost your self-confidence. And so when you network with others, it's key to identify others' interests. This helps you identify common interests and goals, as well as areas in which you can offer of yourself. So when you meet a new person, ask about their goals and interests. Ask yourself how they mesh with your own goals and interests. How do they align with the goals and interests of your organization? How can you integrate your interests with others to find common ground? What common goals do you have? And how can you offer of yourself to help others reach their goals? How can they help you reach your goals? Focus on ways in which your goals and interests integrate with others, or helps create a strong, powerful network that goes beyond simple friendship. Now, to be able to network, you have to reach out. There are many ways to do this, both online and in person. And one of the easiest ways to reach out is to join professional, the social networking sites, like LinkedIn. And look for people in your industry who have shared your interests. Join groups, both online and in person. Professional groups and associations, groups which promote skills you want to develop, and groups that work for causes you value. They're all good choices. No matter what you choose as a method of meeting people, the key part of networking is to talk to people. Approach people and start a conversation, and cultivate a presence that makes you approachable. Be responsive when people contact you via email or phone. Make time in your schedule each week to work on networking. Schedule it as if you would any other important task, and use your soft skills. Listen actively. Project your self-confidence. Build others up as you network. So, as important as knowing how and when to reach out, knowing when to back off is equally important. If it becomes clear that the person you are trying to connect with is not responding, it's time to move on. And the last thing you want is for someone to feel pursued. Be willing to back off if a person appears to be trying to distance themselves. And also be aware of being too self-promoting. This can be off-putting. Know that you have much to offer to others, and that someone not wanting to build a networking relationship with you is not a reflection of your worth as a person. So in this illustration, Gwen, her manager suggested she join a professional social networking site, just like we do all of our interns and our students. She thought it would help Gwen as she stepped into her new role and with more responsibility if she networked with people in similar positions. Well, Gwen wasn't sure. She wasn't even sure how to create a profile or use the site. She spent some time with her coworker, Kwame, who managed the social media for the company. And Kwame helped Gwen choose a professional-looking headshot for her profile. Well, they entered in her information, focusing on her education, work history, and her current role. And Kwame advised her to keep her presence on the site professional and positive. Then they sought out groups on the site. Gwen joined a group for professional women, just like our Women for Security, a group for people in roles like hers, and a group for alumni of our school. He helped her craft personal, friendly messages to people who seemed to have the same goals and interests. And within a week or so, Gwen had made several contacts with people who were very experienced in roles like hers, who had advice to give. Now, she was able to help some new alumni from her university with also advice on their job searches also. So for these review questions, go ahead and answer them. Pick your choice. Email them to todd.price@globalctinstitute.org. So it's about time to wrap up. Now, although this workshop is coming to a close, we hope that your journey to improve your soft skills is just the beginning. And at GCTI, we wish you the best of luck on the rest of your travels. Thank you.